Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny this week with highs in the low to mid 90s. Overnight lows in the mid to upper 60s. Summer is still kind of hanging around. For everything SCV related, go to hometownstation.com or check us out on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at KHTS Radio.
Welcome. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. You're listening to the Ask Brien show. We'll be going over what Ask Brien's about very shortly, but I want to say hello to my co-host, Alex Grossman. Alex, how you doing?
Absolutely fantastic, Mr. Brien Johnson. How are you today?
Just fantastic, not like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Well, the weather in Southern California is fantastic, so I'm fantastic along with it.
Well, that's great. How was you had the Labor Day off, holiday. How was that? You have some time off.
I think like most of them, we took some time off and enjoyed the weather.
Enjoyed the weather. That's a good one. Our guest has good weather too. He's from Atlanta, and we'll be getting to him very, very shortly. Before we do, I want to just go over a couple of things. People that have not watched the Ask Brien show, and by the way, Brien is Brien. That's the only way you can spell Brien. Some people try to spell it with an A or a YAN, but everybody knows that the real way to spell Brien is Brien, and that's why we are AskBrien.com. AskBrien.com is a website that was created to allow people to learn about business. So if you're a business owner and you have a business question, you want to get it asked and answered, you can go to the Ask Brien website, and you can have either the business community answer the question, somebody that's already been in a situation where, hey, I've dealt with that problem before, or you can actually ask an expert. There are various experts. Not everyone can qualify to become an expert. You have to have 10,000 hours of experience and or have some infamy with besides that. So it's not just anyone that can become an expert. We have experts that can also ask and answer questions. And experts post videos, ebooks, blog posts, and can schedule their own webinars on the website. So it's basically an all-in-one encompassing place for people to learn about business and get business information. And of course, the Ask Brien radio show and all the videos of Ask Brien are already present on the site. And if you have a specific subject like how do I set up my accounting records, how would I create a retirement plan, what's the best way to get my first customer, all those and more are obtainable on Ask Brien, AskBrien.com. And the radio show is basically a continuation of that. Basically, we have a guest each week that can teach business owners something that they may or may not be aware of. And since we keep a library on YouTube and also always on Facebook Live, you can learn about any business subject anytime. So we're there for you 24/7. And without further ado, we're going to bring on our guest. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Mr. Bo Henderson. I wanted to be a sportscaster at one time, so I have to go through that. Are you there, Bo?
That was close. Real close, but almost got it. But
all right, well, you go for it.
Bo Henderson.
Bo Henderson.
Yeah.
Leading off.
Funny spelling.
Leading off is Bo Henderson playing center field. All right, here you are. And you are center field because you're the center of attention for the next hour. Mr. Henderson, or Bo, couple questions for you. What are you currently doing in business?
Well, my day job has been building a financial planning firm here in Atlanta for the last 16 years. And that's pretty much where I spend most of my time, either working with clients or creating content and educational materials to help people prepare for and navigate the often complicated idea of retirement.
And my understanding is you've written a book or two. Is that correct?
I have. There's a couple of books around. One of the things I found in the world of retirement planning and even in the world of of business is that sometimes the information we have access to is really based on what those people who give us information sell, right? Go figure. And what I found was that by putting some information that you're not going to get a lot of times when you go to your broker dealer up the street or your boutique shop, chain shop, is that let's create the information and truly be a resource for the people going through this to actually, I have a kind of a novel idea. I want to help people raise their retirement IQ so that they're actually better clients and better prepared to navigate retirement on their own, just with a little help from people like me.
And so, first of all, how many books have you written?
Oh, all in, we've worked on probably 5 different books now.
And what are the 2 biggest books you've got?
So the 2 biggest books, one of them is specifically about retirement. It's the 12 Steps to a Successful Retirement. And what I'm doing there is I'm navigating people through some of the biggest pitfalls that come up, that blow up a person's retirement strategy. And then the second biggest book is The Rich Life, 10 Investments for True Wealth. And that's really more of a philosophy book about let's have a financial plan that makes sense mathematically, but let's also do that in the context of creating a life that we're excited about, and that's meaningful to us. Again, kind of novel concepts, but it really seems to make a lot of sense when we get down to it.
So we're going to go over a little bit about the retirement stuff on the second segment. We're going to hold our thoughts there because I really want to educate people, and we will be educating people in the second half about retirement programs, retirement plans, and how they can be used to incentivize their system as well as have an extra source of income after as they get older and their business is no longer their main asset. But before we get there, I want to go over a little bit more about your background. Now, prior to becoming a retirement financial planner, business owner in about 16, 17 years ago, you said, what were you doing before that?
You know, it's kind of funny. My dream growing up was to be a psychologist. That's kind of a funny deal. And I pursued that path to graduate school, and around that time, my father passed away at just 49 years old. And I went home to help my mom with his small business and some real estate, and immersing myself in helping her. I realized, you know what? I can help people with this financial planning type of things and not necessarily be dealing in the burnout profession that I was already starting to experience in the mental health field. And that kind of shifted the track. And 16 years later, that's been really a passion of mine. But it's been a very bizarre blending. It seemed bizarre to blend the psychology and the financial background of my formal education. But what I realized, the longer I do the work, the more important is the plan. The plan is the easy part. The math is the easy part. It's really making sure we exhibit the right behaviors to make the plan work. So it ended up being a really good combination of things to bring into this line of work.
Now, what kind of business did your dad have?
You know, it's actually a retail landscaping and plant nursery. So spent many summers picking up rocks on job sites when I was growing up.
So you know a lot about dirt.
Exactly. Dirt and plants. That's right.
So, Bo, if I can ask you, building a business like this, you know, a financial planning business, seems like a lot of the people that are in this business are larger companies, right? You're a consultant, and you're doing this for individuals that go into this. But how do you get started in a business like this when you look at it and you go, well, most of the people come out of these big financial institutions, or these institutions do it for you. What gave you the honest to go do this, and how do you get started doing something like this?
You know, it brings up a really good point, and there's somewhat of an evolution, because the success rate or failure rate is probably a better way to put it in this industry is above 90%, making it 3 years in this business. So what you'll see in a lot of times, and this was my case, my first 5 years, I actually worked with AIG, a big, really international broker-dealer, and that helped me get established initially, having the big name, having some of the assets they had to attract clients. But what happened is over time is my education and my skills grew. I was holding clients back by being affiliated, and that's when it made sense to make that transition to open up my own shop and be more of an independent advisor so that I could help the client with whatever they needed as opposed to what a big company was telling me to sell.
Well, that's an interesting point, because You're talking about having the big company that can kind of give you the brand recognition on day one. People know who you are. You have something behind you, the reputation. And then you realize at some point in time that, oh my God, you're probably better off if you're on your own, because now you don't have to offer only one company's products. You can offer a multitude of products. Is that correct?
It's exactly right. And there's somewhat of a tipping point to where when your expertise and knowledge is to the point, and the client base, that's important too, is to the point to where you don't need the big names, and there's a natural shift that makes sense, because you're right. I found myself in a situation a couple times where a district manager pressured me to do something that I knew wasn't the best thing for the client, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me to say, you know what, I'm going to do it independent, even if it's a little tougher initially, and make that transition.
Well, that's very interesting. How did you survive the crisis of 2008?
You know what's funny in this business, and it seems almost the opposite of what it would be, is when things go bad, we get really busy, because when we're in a big run like the 90s, or even a big run like we're in now, everybody's pretty confident, and they feel like, you know what, this isn't so hard, I can do this. It's when things start to fall apart that I start getting people raising their hand, get really busy with people reaching out saying, hey, I need some help with this, I need to adjust, I need to do that. So it's almost opposite of what you would think. It's when things get bad, our business actually jumps up.
That is a very interesting point. Now, since we're on the subject, even though I thought we were going to go in the second segment, let's follow this up a little bit. So I own a little local furniture store, and I'm always using that example if you watch my show. But I own this local furniture store. I'm just getting online, just learning out the part of that. And I'm 46 years old, and I spent all my money on my house, my kids, and my furniture store. I got nothing saved. Tell me what to do. And tell me, and crying's not an option.
Yeah, crying one, just throw in the towel, have no, reduce your lifestyle. No, I'm kidding. What you can do in this situation, and by the way, the average, this is kind of a shocking statistic to most people. The average person in this country, in the United States, actually doesn't start saving for their retirement until, guess what age? Any guesses?
55.
Well,
53 years old. And
wow.
It's just what you just described.
Wow.
We're busy with our careers, raising kids, and then we're like, crap. It's right around the corner. I better do something. But to your point of having a business, one of the biggest benefits we can do with a business is kind of catch up for some of that lost time in doing something called a SEP IRA. And as opposed to us being limited to, say, $5,500 into a traditional IRA, we can put up to 25% of our income into that, up to $54,000 plus. It's lower $54,000 a year. So a SEP IRA with a business, that gives you a great opportunity to catch up for those of us that we're trying to make up from some of our earlier years where we didn't get started.
Now, that $54,000, is that tax deductible? I know you're not a tax expert, but...
Yes, absolutely. So what it does, so say you made $100,000 for the year, if you maxed up, and we put in $25,000 or 25%, it would drop your taxable income right off the top by the money that you contributed to that. So your income for the year would look like $75,000 instead of $100,000. So it can be a big tax help. And
you can put that money into anything?
What you would do, a SEP IRA, so the IRA is the vehicle, but you could invest it into, more traditionally, you're going to see things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds. If you get really fancy and have the right experts to help, you can even invest into things like businesses, real estate, and other things like that within the SEP IRA.
What if I just invest in my own business?
Yeah, that's the trick. The trick of that is it would be really great if you could kind of have yourself a ongoing loan to pay back, but you can't really steal to yourself. So that's one of the things that will blow up the IRA and make everything in there taxable. But there are some kind of neat things you can do around that. But for most people, it's more traditional, looking for long-term averages of market averages of growing an asset outside of their business over time. And again, not getting so close to where, hey, I have this business and I hope that's my asset and I hope it sells for what I would like it to sell for, what I project, but also building an asset outside of that kind of is another stream and another backup to being able to one day walk away from the business, because not everybody wants to work in their business until the day they die.
And hopefully I'm not owning a Blockbuster video location, because
there we
Netflix and cable's going to kill me.
Right. The plan didn't exactly go as thought for Blockbuster, I'm afraid. The exit strategy.
So, Bo, let me take it a little bit from where you went there, and look at more of our audience. And a lot of the audience are small business owners, or people who are looking to get in their own business or been in there a while, probably not yet looking to get out, but you never know. I mean, nobody wants to do it forever. So when you're working for a large company, you get 401k, you have a lot of investment vehicles that you can do. You're often a little bit more flush with cash sometimes. You're feeling like, I've got a business for life, or at least, if I have a big job in a big company, I'm going to be there for life. But when you're a small business owner, you're always putting money back in the business. I mean, your investments are in advertising. You're taking less pay a lot of times just because you want to see the business go. You probably don't have a 401k for your employees or yourself, and a lot of these small businesses maybe only have a couple employees. Are there vehicles that people can do so they don't wait till they're 55 or 53 to do these things? What would you suggest people do?
So if you're starting just trying to get something going, trying to get some momentum, so you're not letting the years go by and missing the compounding of interest, which does the wonderful doubling of our money over time. One easy way that's always a top priority because of flexibility is we can all put $5,500 into a Roth IRA every year, $6,500 if we're over 50. That's always a great place to start. And again, with our business, if we have the income to exceed that $6,500 or $5,500, we could look at something like a SEP. And I think the key is what I see happen, guys, a lot of time is we're thinking, hey, I'm going to wait until I can put aside $50,000 or $100,000, and we wait and we let the years go by. Whereas if we would have started putting back $5,000 a year 10 years ago, we're going to have a much bigger sum of money when it comes time to pull the trigger.
Now, a couple of our listeners may not know what a SEP IRA is, so can you explain that to people?
Yeah, it's an IRA, so it has the same status as pre-tax. Tax deferred is an IRA, but it's basically it's a small employer pension program. So it's created specifically for small businesses, and that's one of the first tools we'll see. And a lot of accountants, when we talk to CPAs and things, that's one of the first tools they'll bring up as a way, if we have tax issues or we're paying too much tax, that we can bring that tax down. But again, you get the double benefit of socking aside and growing an asset separate from your business. That was one of the mistakes I saw happen with a lot of business owners, and in particularly my dad, is everything was so focused on building this business. It's my baby, that you got to be careful that you're not putting everything in that, so that there's no other assets being grown outside of that. I think that's a big mistake. And then we get a certain age and we realize, wow, I can't afford to quit because I don't have any other assets or resources to help me transition out.
That's a really good point. And in fact, it reminds me, I had a conversation with, being an entrepreneur myself and knowing a lot of entrepreneurs. I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a good friend who we had worked at a big company together, and he has a relatively sizable 401k from that company, and he's been out of there maybe, left after I did, so maybe 6 or 7 years out of the company, and he's got, $500,000 in 401k left in that company, but it's not giving him anything. And he doesn't want to pull it out to put it in his own business, but he's sitting there going, well, when I left the company, that was a lot of money. But now I'm thinking about, and he's probably in his late 40s, and he's thinking, well, what am I going to do? How do I roll that money over? And I said, I have no idea. I would probably leave it there. But then again, he said, I'm not getting any interest. So do you run into that with people who start their own businesses after working somewhere else and they don't really have a vehicle to go forward with?
Well, in a lot of cases, so when you separate from service or leave a former employer, what you can do, you can leave the money there. You can roll it to an individual IRA, regardless if it's $1 million or $200. You can roll that into a personal IRA, and what that does for a lot of people is they can put themselves at a custodian or carrier that has more investment options. You have more control over the fees. Now, one of the reasons someone might leave it at their former employer, a lot of times the 401ks, they'll actually have a loan option, and a loan of be able to take a loan and pay it back against the account, and that's one of the reasons we see. But I'd say 90+% of the time, for most people, it makes sense to open a personal IRA account. Then they're not at the mercy of their company picking a new company with higher fees, not good options to diversify in. So most of the time it's to roll it into a personal IRA, and that could be set up anywhere. It could be set up with another advisor. It could be set up at one of your big custodians like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, something like that.
Now, we have about 1 minute before we're going to take a break, but something that I've dealt with is most of the time in a 401k, they're investing in that company's stock. So again, if your company is Apple or Facebook, that might be great, but if you're in a Blockbuster and you were doing that in the 90s, it's probably not a good idea. So my understanding was always you do want to roll that over to another account, because then you can put it into a mutual fund, an S&P 500, and get a better return. But I don't know, have you come across that?
Absolutely, and one of the things, a lot of times companies will match with their stock, and I'll run across accounts that are 50, 60, 70% company stock, and you're right, one bad thing in the news, one takeover, something comes up, and that stock could be worthless. But what happens is people that have worked for a company 10, 20, 30 years, they can be very loyal to that stock. But what I would recommend is let's roll that out. Maybe if you're really loyal to it and really attached to it, let's make that 5% of your portfolio. And as you said, let's diversify that other in some indexes and mutual funds that'll give you better diversity and better long-term averages with less risk.
All right, well, we're on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We're going to be right back with Bo Henderson. Thank you very much. We'll be back.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
Have you heard about Assistance League Retail Store? For a good time and a great deal and bargains that are an amazing steal, there are friendly volunteers ready to share a smile. So come on in and stay a while. We take donations on gently used goods, and proceeds from our sales stay in the neighborhood. So for a great buy and a special find, come visit our store anytime. Assistance League Resale Store located at 24369 Main Street in downtown Newhall.
At City of Hope, we don't believe the future can wait for the future. For over a century, we've been advancing science that saves lives. From 4 of the world's top cancer-fighting drugs to the development of synthetic human insulin. We are maximizing the potential of immunotherapy and making precision medicine a reality. It's not enough to promise future cures for cancer. We must find them sooner. We are the miracle of science with soul. Find out more at cityofhope.org.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome back, KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. You're listening to the Ask Brien Show, AskBrien, and that's our theme song. Sometimes people think it's Rocky. No, it's not Rocky. It's Ask Brien, because we're going to get you pumped up like Arnold does. All right, we're back here with Bo Henderson and my co-host, Alex Grossman. You there, guys?
Yo, Adrian.
Got to have a little spice, you know? Otherwise, life's way too boring. Alex, you had a question you were going to ask, and you're talking about books or something or promotion, so why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to ask Bo that I respect anyone who can write a book, never mind a series of books, because it is time consuming, and I wonder how during starting your business, getting everything up and running, and how you find time to do that. And was the book also part of a way of promoting your business? And how do you go about in a business like yours getting customers? So I guess that's a two-part question, but I think it'd be really important for our listeners to understand that.
And I'm sure he has a 3-part answer to your 2-part question. Go ahead.
Actually 4 or 5 points. No, I'm just kidding. So let's do the book question first. So the book, what happened is after years, and I really got clear and firm in my methodology of retirement planning. I found myself saying the same thing one-on-one with clients every day, every week. And the purpose of the book for me was to get that story down, get the languaging down that I knew resonated with clients into a format that I could then promote and get out on a broader scale. And by getting it in front of more people, I could actually have more people coming in, reaching out, saying, hey, I'd like to talk. I like what you're about. I like your strategy. Not to mention it gives me opportunities to speak. The books give me opportunities to do a lot of shows like this because there's always something new to talk about, something fresh. But the purpose of the book was really to have a tool, one, a credibility tool, and 2, to be a little different from the guy up the street. Because I think in a lot of our businesses, whatever it is we do, if you're like me, there's 1,000 other guys in my city that do what I do. And the topics of talking about finance, money, IRAs, that can be very boring. You see people's eyes start to glaze over. But if I can say, hey, I'm the guy that has this different philosophy, that has this different message, and I want to be different than the last 10 people you've heard from or talked to. That's the purpose of the book, was to give me that little bit platform that elevates me slightly as an authority and a resource to the demographic that I serve.
How do you distribute the books?
Well, so one of the things I do is podcast speaking. I do monthly educational events to that same demographic, and we market on Facebook ads to get people to come out to learn about things like Social Security claiming strategies, navigating retirement, taxes in retirement. And those are opportunities. I was fortunate with 10 Investments for True Wealth and its follow-up book. A publisher picked that up, and they did great things to help me get it into bookstores and sold some foreign rights on that. So it's just different ways, but for me, it's a lot easier to promote when you have something tangible to promote, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's what I do for a living, or here's my business. And it gives you, there's something magical that still happens with a book that can position you as an authority or add credibility than the 9 other people out of 10 that didn't have time or make time to do it.
Now, does that apply to anything? I mean, I don't want to put a bad subject out there, but okay, I would think professionals, okay, their authority is has more value. But I mean, if you're an electrician, for instance, writing a book, does that make you the authority any more so than a profession, or does it, or it applies in the same manner?
I think I do think there's a differentiation in that. As an electrician, I may be getting a lot of my work from other related real estate resources like real estate, construction, things like that. I think the book where the credibility comes in, where someone, it's a really high trust type of thing. Somebody's trusting you in a professional capacity. I think that's really can set you apart as an authority. Now, do I think a very creative electrician could write a book to the ideal client he serves and maybe pick up business with it, or have something to hand out? If he the difference would be, instead of speaking in front of a group of just business owners, he would be speaking in front of a group with his book to a group of contractors. So I think that's a big key and difference I've found is make sure we do a lot of radio shows, and I help people create a lot of radio shows here locally in Atlanta. And one of the big differences that relate to this that comes up is I had a chiropractor come in, and he wanted to do a radio show. And I said, okay, that's cool. And I said, but it's going to be very boring for people if you talk about cracking L4 and L5 every week and you're talking about being a chiropractor. I said, what is your ideal market? He said, you know what? I actually work with mainly females aged 25 to 45. I said, okay, let's create a radio show that is attractive to those people that gives them information they want to do. And by the way, you can also help them with their physical health because you're a chiropractor. So I think that's the key is making sure we're marketing to the person that can actually help us write business or do business in the end, as opposed to more of a general audience.
So how can you help somebody that owns the furniture store? I keep going back to that. I mean, obviously the book is not going to work, so that's not going to be how would you promote somebody who owns a furniture store? Obviously the internet is there, but it's a little bit more difficult. You know, selling a couch and paying $500 for the couch and $400 to ship it to Maine from California is difficult. So how would you help the furniture store?
You know, when it comes to helping the furniture store in the capacity of the planning, one of the things I would really look at the marketing and what are we spending our marketing dollars on? And again, are we getting the message in front of the right people that are out looking to buy furniture? And the reason I bring up the marketing first and foremost, I've seen a lot of new startup businesses and young businesses just throw a lot of money out there trying to advertise to everybody in a shotgun approach. And in a lot of cases, we can't afford to do that at that stage in the business development. So for that furniture business, that's what I do. I do a very intensive dive on, okay, what is it? Is it Facebook ads targeting this age range that's been shopping, following this catalog, this furniture catalog that will get them to a sale at my store? You know, you could experiment with something like a podcast. I just don't know, more of a general service like that. I don't know that would be attractive, but I think getting very clear, and if there's any advice I could have I've seen many businesses stall out and fail because they're spending money on marketing that they don't track, and they continue to spend money, hoping for the big business to come in. And when it doesn't, they're putting themselves in a bind and putting their business at a disadvantage.
And how do you get customers? New ones.
Wow, so new ones. So where we are now, there was a shift. You know, when I came into this business, there's a model of financial planning and financial services that's out there that's still established and it's way outdated. It was all about sales. Here's sales tactics. Here's sales techniques. Here's how you speak to people's pain. And not that we still don't address those pain points, but the deal I found was there was something very powerful when I shifted from being a salesperson to being a content creator. And again, that's through writing information through the blogs, writing the books, doing podcasts, and truly repositioning and positioning myself as a resource for that ideal customer. Kind of like I talked about with that example, the chiropractor. I'm the resource for people 50 to 65 that are concerned about transitioning from their working life to retirement life on everything from their finances to living overseas in retirement to how to travel the world. So I'm talking about things that they care about by positioning myself as a resource and by just the longevity of doing the business now for 16 years, a combination of referrals and people know what I do and don't feel that I'm a hardcore salesman, that I need this sale to pay my bills this month, which unfortunately happens a lot and comes across in a lot of situations. There's a level of trust. And that's one of the biggest things I see in getting established with customers is what can we do to position ourselves as a trusted resource versus yet another salesman that's trying to sell me something.
Alex?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's really powerful, Bo. Part of this is we've had guests in the past who've talked about Facebook advertising and where to spend money. And the thing always comes back to know your audience and go back after the audience you want rather than hit it with a broad brush and address people's needs. I think the interesting thing you're saying here is as you look at the book and comparing that to the electrician or the furniture store, I don't think a furniture store owner would write a book on furniture, but it's really interesting that the more complex the subject is and harder to grasp, the more the marketing has to reflect that. So in your case, writing a book reflects more difficult marketing because the subject's hard. Yeah, I'm one of those people who would glaze over when you're talking about IRAs and 401ks and all that stuff. I really want someone to be a coach and just help me out with that. Where, if it's something I really enjoy, that's my business or a hobby, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to watch videos and read books and understand all that. But I think it's really important to do that. And I think targeting and knowing where these people are. So I'm assuming that in a lot of your advertising, you've done a demographic sweep. You said, well, I want people who are like 52 because at 53 they're gonna start wanting my services, or I want people who have this much money, or that. Is that how you're going about getting that demographic down pat?
Absolutely. It's criteria such as, okay, homeowners with at least $500,000 of net worth in this area. I mean, it gets the analytics get very specific, but then you can start saying, okay, when I market X amount of dollars of ads, I have on average over the course of a year, this many people show up per event, and out of those people, this many people come in to meet with me, and this many people become clients, and all of a sudden it comes down to knowing your numbers. But one of the things I can say is, in starting your business, for so many years, guys, I tried to save a little money and hire somebody a little cheaper. When it comes to things like Facebook ads, which I'm no guru of, I've hired a team that's very good at it. But when it comes to marketing, because it's so easy to spend money on marketing without results, is a lot of times I've found by finding somebody with a true track record that they can back it up, not just somebody that says, hey, I can run Facebook ads, and you spend $10,000 of ads and realize, yeah, they really don't know what they're doing. They know how to load a picture and do an ad, but not really test and tweak for your demographic. So sometimes spending a little money up front for somebody that's really skilled and that can back up their credentials will save you a lot of money in the long run, as opposed to just trying to save a little bit here and there by people that just might not quite be up to par with your goals.
How do you figure that out? Okay, if somebody's advertising and spending $500,000 a year,
it's a good question
on advertising, does that make them the expert? I mean, that's the point. How do you know?
Right, and that's it can be difficult. I think the thing is, and this is the onus becomes on us, is the consumer in this case, is we need to be asking for, who are the companies you've worked for? Who are the people you work for? I would like to talk to some of those people. Let me actually see some of the campaigns you've done. So you're really doing a higher level of due diligence than just trusting somebody because, hey, I see them everywhere. That just might mean they know how to make sure you're seeing them once you click on a link about Facebook ads, right? It might not mean they actually drive results. So I think it comes back to just like our finances. The onus comes back on us to do the due diligence to make the best decision we can, not just hope, hey, I hope this works out and I'm saving a few bucks.
Now,
it's like anything else. Professionals hiring professionals to do the best job, right?
Right.
Well, and that's not always easy, just because somebody says, super doctor, or doesn't mean they're a super doctor, right? It just could mean that they paid for an advertising campaign and joined that group, right? And
I think there's another piece to say to that too, is that let's test $100 and see if there's a conversion in that before we throw $5,000 at something, right? And let somebody prove to you in a way that's scalable at intervals that something's going to work and convert. I think that's a good way to look at it too.
And I've tried to do that to some of my consultants I've worked with, and what they'll tell me is, well, we have a flat fee of X dollars, right? And it's like, well, I want to try it out, test it. If it works, I have no problem paying the flat fee, but I want to make sure it works for us. And they'll say, well, it takes a lot of time and effort and research to get to that level. We're spending a lot of time and effort. Obviously, we can't spend it, so we can't really do a small program like that. What would you do if somebody said that to you? Would you run away, or would you try to get more research on that person, or how would you handle that?
Yeah, it's hard not to find somebody that is doing a flat fee for that, because the reality is with Facebook ads, if we're talking about that in particular, any kind of online marketing like that, in a lot of cases, the setup and work is the same for a $1,000 campaign as it is a $10,000 campaign. So it's hard to get away from somebody charging a flat fee. So if you're still wanting to go that route, one, don't go that route if you don't have the flat fee. Don't put yourself and your business in a bind, hoping and praying this person's so good and that flat fee is going to save the day. I think that's where we see people get in trouble, is say go back to more traditional, go to networking events, go look to more traditional marketing until you're in the position to do some of these more online type of ventures for something like a more traditional furniture store in our example.
I think you also hit on something really interesting, and that's that And you said it early on, you have to spend the right money for the right people, but you also have to do the work yourself. So I don't think there's any way, and I kind of caught this from in there, not only do you do the work evaluating to get the right person, but you have to make sure that you're looking over their shoulder as well to make sure they're doing the right job for you. So, you have to steer them in the right direction. It's hard to say, well, here's 10 seconds on my business. Now go off and make me the best ad campaign in the world. No, I think you still need to sell those features and benefits, what makes your business better and what's unique about your business and your approach and your professionalism that allows them to go do the job. And I think that comes out in a good advertising campaign. And I think you kind of said that in the way you talked about how it all should be, an investment that you're really making yourself.
And, that's been a hard lesson learned over time and experience is that, yes, say in our example of Facebook ads, I want the best Facebook ad who's much more talented than me in Facebook ads. But if I don't have a basic level of competence, I don't know if they're doing, and it's the same thing with working with a financial advisor, really. If I don't have a basic level of financial competence, I have no idea if they're doing right by me. I don't even have any idea what goals to tell them I need help with. So I think that does bring up a great point is that anytime we're going to spend money like that or invest money, we need to put it on ourselves to have at least you don't have to be the expert, but have a base level of competence to be able to lead your goals and your team.
So I have a question comes from that. They talk about jack of all trades, master of none, right? It sounds to me what you guys are talking about is you need to know a little bit about everything about your business to be successful. And yet, at the same token, if you're knowing a little bit about every part of your business, how are you going to master part of it?
I think it comes to this is for all of us, and depending on our role in our business, there's different roles. There's visionaries, there's integrators or managers. And I think the key is that we identify what that role is for us that's going to best move the business forward. And then like you were just describing, is let's have a base competency to be able to lead the other areas. But we do need to spend the bulk of our time in our true area of expertise. Like for me, it was building the team with a lot of the details and the back end things that we're talking about. And my role is to lead and promote the business and the mission. And that's just my area of strength. For other people, it's the exact opposite. It's they're doing the day-to-day management, but they still need to have a hand or an idea about what's going on in these areas, or else they can't manage.
Now, we have about 25, 30 seconds left, so we're not going to have a lot of time here. My question to you is, if you had to start one business right now, what business would that be?
I could start one business right now, I think I would start, and this is funny, I'm saying this here, I think if I started over right now, I would start with the Retirement Resource Podcast, and I would start building up a following of people that I educated about retirement topics and then produce business from that. And
I would have started the Yes Brien radio show, so there we have it. We'll be right back.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Did you know that nearly 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime? And in Santa Clarita, our community supports its own domestic violence center with a shelter home, 24-hour crisis hotline, and bilingual counseling programs. If you or someone you know needs help, we're here. The 24-hour crisis hotline number is 259-HELP. For more information, go to dvcsantaclarita.com because no one should tolerate domestic violence. 259-HELP.
I've always been driven to serve our country and our community.
Congressman Steve Knight.
I served in the United States Army and spent 18 years as an officer with the Los Angeles Police Department. I ran for Congress because too often I saw people forgotten by Washington. The crisis at the VA exemplified a bureaucracy that was out of touch and hurting real people. As your congressman, I'm committed to making our government in Washington work better for you.
My name is David Brayton. I am an Air Force veteran. 10 years ago, my doctors told me that I had to have a double lung transplant. It was a massive uphill battle to get the VA to do what they said they were going to do in the first place. Finally, Steve Knight got involved, and if it wasn't for Steve Knight's assistance in this thing, I guarantee you I'd be dead. Steve Knight is a veteran, and he's LAPD on top of it. I'm voting for Steve Knight because he gets stuff done for us.
I'm Steve Knight, and I approve this message.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back. That's the Ask Brien radio show, ASKBRIEN on 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I switched it around. Things can be done differently. Not all the way, something doesn't have to be done all the way, all the time, the same way. Consistency does matter, but you can switch things around. And on that note, we're going to ask somebody how somebody could switch around their retirement plan. What are the secrets of switching something around to make yourself better? And with that, I'm going to ask our guest, Mr. Bo Henderson, and my co-host, Alex Grossman. But we're going to ask Bo, what is your response?
I think if we just let's shift our mindset on retirement planning. This is one of the things I found, and it's really the model that I developed that's really seemed to resonate nationally, and it's this idea of most of retirement planning over the course of the history of the profession has been really based on spreadsheets and models of, okay, I need X amount of dollars at this age to do this for the money. Not very, very mathematical, which is important. And don't get me wrong, the math has to work, and it's a crucial component of it. But, it reminded me of what we were talking about at the end of the last segment, is we were talking about, hey, if every day I could get up and go do the show and that was my job and that was all I had to do, that would be beautiful. That would be exciting. That would be the life I would love to live. That's what I found, that if we can get clear in planning on what that looks like for you, where are we going? What does it look like? Is it to buy that cabin in the woods and write your book? Is it to travel the world? Is it to do your radio show? What is that thing? And then let's create a plan and a financial strategy to make sure it's moving you towards that thing that's meaningful to you and it lights you up. And since I've been talking that message over the last 10 years, I found that a lot of people are like, hey, wait a minute. There is more to it, and it's more exciting to me when we're not just looking at a spreadsheet of numbers to create a life plan and build a financial plan in the context of that.
So is that your secret?
That's the biggest thing is I've been helping people get clear on what is their definition of a rich life, because if we're not careful, what happened early on after the first several years in this business, I saw, it was really heartbreaking. I would see people literally sleepwalking through life, playing their role as an employee, a son, a daughter, a mother, a student, whatever it was, and they were just literally sleepwalking. They weren't enjoying their life, and they were waiting for some destination in the future when, hey, I might get this position, I might retire down here, and a lot of things can happen. We might not ever get there. If we're not careful trying to climb the corporate ladder, we might lose our spouse in the process. We might be waiting for this retirement to enjoy our life and feel excited and fulfilled, and we might never make it. We've all seen things happen. So really that's been the secret of the growth and success of the Rich Life brand, is getting clear on what is the life we really want to live, because a lot of people, believe it or not, have no clarity on that. They have no clarity on where they are today, where they stand, and they don't have a lot of clarity on where they really want to go. And if we can identify those two things, we found by surveys of about 1,000 people a couple years ago that puts you in the top 5% of people if you're actually clear where you are and you have a real clear idea of where you want to go. Sounds simple, but it's true.
Well, just because you have that clear idea and know all that, you still have to do it, right?
You have to do it, but then we can create a plan that moves towards that so that it's not just wishing and hoping.
So let's say your plan is, I want to retire in 10 years, I have X dollars, right? But then you have those unforeseen events. You have the 2008 financial crisis. Your kid gets accepted to Harvard, and even though you were planning on sending him to a state school, you don't have the financial resources to do that, but you promised that kid, those are the life experience that can, even if you have a carefully planned retirement, you still have to figure out ways sometimes to dish around it. If you had $2 million in your retirement account, it was 2008, now you're down to $1 million, it's like, can I retire? So, I mean,
right.
Timing does count.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things, a retirement plan that will fail or a financial plan that will fail is a rigid plan, meaning we have to have flexibility, because one thing when we're dealing with life and we're dealing with humans, it's not going to work out exactly like the plan dictates, right? So we have to have some contingencies. We have to have some flex. So in that case, say we promised the kid we would pay for Harvard. We might say, you know what, I can't refinance my retirement, but we can finance your education, and then as long as I get back on track in a good position, I'll help you make some payments on that loan. Just an adjustment, just a little shift in focus. And it might even be that of that $2 million in your example that we saved, maybe we had done some things to protect $1 million of it. We knew we needed to have the income we needed, and the loss on the other side, we were able to wait out the market coming back up and 5 to 10 years down the road. So that's one of the biggest things. And thank you for bringing up that point, because that was something I would eventually want to talk about, is that we have to think in mind of flexibility and contingencies, because anytime you're planning for business, for life, for anything, for your finances, it's not going to work out like the plan. And if we're so rigid and so focused on it being exactly like the plan, then we're putting ourselves in a position to fail, be disappointed, be discouraged, or even give up.
Alex?
Wow, I'm going to have to read your book after that. That was really complex, and you made some great points there. So that's fantastic.
I see that a lot, too, with people, so they extrapolate, well, every 7 years I'm going to double my income, double my amount in my plan, and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Mathematics like that is mathematics, but at the end of the day, it rarely works out. You've got fluctuations, you've got things that happen, and you have to account for that. And if you don't account for that, you are going to be in trouble. But good financial planners, such as Mr. Bo Henderson, will not allow that to happen. And Bo, before we leave, because we have to get off the air, where can people locate you or contact you so they can use your services?
Well, you can go to richlifeadvisors.com, and for listeners of the show, guys, I have a 12-step to retirement success book they can find there absolutely free, just to give them some more ideas of some of the pitfalls to avoid and some of the things that will help them create a successful strategy to navigate retirement.
And you've been listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with my co-host Alex Grossman and our very special guest, Bo Henderson. And thank you and goodbye.